Rickety, hi and welcome to part 5 or 6, where I'm at. It's funny how these videos get so, like, I miss having my cameras where I could just get an hour in at a time or 2 hours making these short videos, because the camera just keeps splicing, right? But anyway, so my friends are asking me what do I think of Sex in the City and stuff like that. And at the time, okay, and you kind of see a statistic of it now, and the MGTOW guys and the Red Pill community, and the Manosphere guys, they talk about this all the time, that, 80% of women go for like 20% of guys, or whatever it is. And there's a truth to it to a degree. But statistics are a funny thing. It's how you interpret them, right? Kind of like median, if you were to go by average median incomes in the country, like the average person is making $50,000. No, they're not. They are not. I am not making $50,000 a year, nor do I know many people who are. But if you took the wealthiest people in the population and the poorest people in the population, everybody in between, and you averaged out all the incomes, you would have everybody at roughly that. But really, when you look at how many people are actually making $50,000 a year, it's maybe 20% of the population. The rest are making $10,000 or $15,000 a year, maybe 20. You know what I mean? So that's how you got to kind of look at statistics, is that 80% rule might not necessarily be 80%. It's 80% distributed a different way, right? I don't want to get too in depth on that, but I'll put it like this. So I'm being asked, what do I think of Sex in the City? And I'm saying, well, I used to play, in a band and stuff like that. It's like, okay, that girl, such and such, I won't use names here, but such and such, yeah, she sleeps with that guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy, yeah. And that guy sleeps with that girl, that girl, that girl, and that girl. Like, they're like, yeah. And that guy and that girl, like there's just like a group of people that are constantly bouncing around from each other. They're not necessarily in an open relationship, but you might as well say it is, right? Well, I mentioned one guy's name, and every girl that was around me, oh, that guy, he's such a sleaze. Like, he's smooth and everything like that, but like, I told my friend, yeah, you don't go near him, because he, you love him to leave him, right? And yeah, those guys do exist. And yes, there's a handful of guys that pull it off on a regular basis. But they typically pull it off on girls that would do that with anybody anyway. So, being in the 90s, what was going on in the 90s? Well, there was a scare of a certain virus going around in the 90s. I won't lie. And it was amongst a certain group of people that was predominant with. Had something to do with monkeys and immune systems. I'll just leave it at that. You draw your own conclusion. So you couldn't just sleep around without, like, all my female friends, like, they were very cautious about that. Like, it's like, yeah, if he's not dating me, he ain't getting nothing. And it's not like my female friends were saints. They had common sense, right? There was stuff going around, and you didn't want to catch it, right? Even myself, yeah, I probably could have done 10 times better had I not kind of shown a little bit, or even as stupid as I was back in my 20s, and like the hound dog after all these women that I was, but I still had to pick, I was still trying to pick the wholesome ones, you know what I mean? Like, I still had to kind of vet them a bit, because I don't want to sleep with that girl if she slept with that guy, because I know that guy's, you know what I mean? So it was like a group of people that did this. These would be your 80%. These would make up your 80%. So it's not truly 80%. It's just this group of people and that group of people that, yes, that sleep around culture thing has gotten bigger. The open relationship, love triangle things, with, what do you call it? What do they call it? You got like 5 people, polyamorous stuff. That was being promoted in the early 90s. That's what Sex and the City was kind of promoting, was polyamory, right? And anytime, whether I knew the person or the person that I knew a group of people like that, it always ended in disaster. Every single time. Usually the woman ended up pregnant. Suddenly all these guys that, just had platonic love with. I mean, they tried it in the 60s with the free love thing. Didn't really work. Yeah, there was a handful of women that were sluts, but after they, had 4 baby daddies, like nobody would touch them. You know what I mean? Except for other guys that would do like baby daddy stuff, right? So those group of people, if you avoid those group of people, you don't have to worry about them. So they're not as prevalent as people think they are. It's a group of people that are sleeping with the same group of people that sleep with, that do these things, right? So it just looks statistically that it's like all these women are going towards, this handful of men, but it's polled on the type of people that would do that, right? So you have to look at how the poll was conducted, because if you were to actually ask every single human being on the planet, you're probably going to find that's nowhere near the case. If you say, okay, we'll just isolate it to Western countries. If we isolate it to Western countries, it's still probably going to work out the same. It'll look like an 80% thing, but then just look at the other statistics. Okay, it's 80% of 80% of women are going for 20% of men. Okay, but there's a problem with that, because look at how many people are not in relationships. Like 35% of women are not going to be in relationships by 2030. They're not going to have kids. They're not going to be in relationships. And the men's even worse. Okay, somehow 80%, there's bigger than, don't get me wrong, this is a crisis, but somehow there's a bigger than 80%. You know what I mean? Like there's a population of people that are just not doing anything together. That's not 80%. You know what I mean? The 80% of people are not, probably not even together. You know what I mean? Or 60%. Like, so you got 35% of women and 60 some odd percent of young males under the age of 30 not in relationships, or something like whatever the statistic is. Okay, where's that 80% of women going towards 20% of guys? There's not even enough guys there for them to go for. You know what I mean? There's not enough women going after these guys. So it's this handful of guys and girls that do this normally. You're polyamorous, whatever. You're slut man, you're slut girl, you're empowered slut girl. It's the same people just jumping around. So it looks like there's all these people doing this, but there really isn't. It's always been that way. It's always been. It might go up a bit. Yes, there's probably a higher amount of people doing it now. Maybe I'm not explaining it well, but there's probably a higher amount of people doing it now because how women have culturally bred into the modernity idea that there's no consequences for actions, or I like that clip with Jack Nicholson when he I forget the name of the movie there, but the girl, how do you write women so well? He goes, I take away reason and accountability, and he walks on, he storms off. Right now, that movie was really funny. It was funny and sad. It was both. It was both. But you could see all the propaganda in that movie. You know what I mean? But yeah, women have been taught that, since the 90s, that you're not accountable for anything because you're the boss bitch, right? And of course they believe it because they've grown up that way. Their moms have told them this, the society has told them this, and then we wonder why they don't know how to react to stuff. Like, we wonder why some of them are so selfish and whatever. Because no one's ever told them different, that this is not the way to live. This is not in your best interest to do this, right? But it's like you're challenging their worldview at this point, and they don't even realize that it wasn't always like this, and that this is a relatively new thing, and what it comes from way back in the first video I talked about, the suffragettes, the cult of Lilith. Enter third wave feminism. Welcome to it. Now let's talk about what happened to women in that.